What's happening, everybody? Rob here from the Basement Bike Shop, and in this video we're going to go over the installation and removal of the threaded headset. Now this is the headset that threads onto the fork, and your stem has a long shaft on it that goes into the fork. You'll find this on most BMX bikes made before the late 90s. Everyone kind of switched over at a different time. So to get started, if we have brakes, we're going to want to disconnect the cable from the lever. So we'll start by releasing the tension at the cantilever brakes, and then disconnect it at the lever. If you've seen my other videos on disconnecting brakes, I think I've done it in 10 of them. You just line up the slots in your barrel, fish your cable through, and then pull it out of the lever itself. And we just do that so that we can remove the handlebars without them still being connected to the bike. Alright, now that we have the brakes disconnected, or if you don't have brakes, then you start here, I guess. We're going to take the wrench that fits the stem bolt and loosen it. For us it's a 13mm. It might be bigger if you have a hollow stem bolt. This will loosen up the wedge on the bottom and allow you to remove the stem. Although a lot of times it doesn't work that smoothly. If your stem bolt starts coming up and it doesn't get any looser, then what you're going to want to do is loosen it till it comes up about 1 inch. Don't take it all the way out, and then hit it with a hammer or a big wrench straight down, light tap, and that will shove the wedge downward, and the stem should slide out nice and easy after that. Okay, next we'll need the 2 wrenches to remove the cap nut and the race nut. It's a 30mm, and I'm going to use a giant crescent wrench on the top one. Now a threaded fork is slotted, and in between these 2 nuts is a slotted washer, so make sure you pay attention to that washer cannot spin. It has a little key in it that goes in the keyway on the fork. And then remove the race nut. Now careful if you're doing this in a bike stand, because this is what's holding the fork on. So if you don't have it braced underneath, she could fall right out. But after you get that out, you can slide the fork right out. And then pull your bearings out. And if you're just doing a tune-up, you can just clean up and grease up those bearings and put them right back in. If you're doing a whole headset replacement, then we're going to remove the cups too. And we're going to do that with a punch and a hammer. And like any other cup, you're just going to hit one side, then the other, go 90 degrees, one side, then the other, just so that it comes out evenly. The more even you can get a cup to come out, the easier it's going to come out. Then we'll flip the bike. Take the other cup out. And if you need to remove and set the race on your fork, the removal is done pretty much the same way. We're going to take a punch and a hammer and just give it light taps as we go around slowly. and done. Okay, and now for setting the race on the fork. It shouldn't go on too hard. If there's a lot of extra paint, if it's a brand new fork, then you might want to remove some of it before it goes on. I don't like to use a metal pipe, so I try to use a PVC pipe if I don't have an actual race setter. And I've demonstrated this technique before in one of my other videos. You're just gonna give it some gentle taps, hitting it evenly until it sets all the way. As for installing headset cups, that's a little more difficult. I usually do it with two people because you want to hold the frame completely level so that when you hit the cups they go in evenly and that it doesn't bend the frame. Since I don't have another person right now, I actually use my bike stand to hold the frame level and then kind of shimmed it up with the 4x4 and the 2x4. And then I'm just going to hit it. And this should set the top cup and the bottom cup at the same time if I'm holding the frame completely level or my friend is holding the frame completely level. But that's how I usually do my headset cups. Alright, then we'll flip our frame back over and get ready to install the rest of our headset. After you've cleaned up the bearings, or if you have brand new bearings, and the cups and everything with some degreaser, we're going to pack the bearings full of grease. I like to make sure you start on one side if it's the inside and put grease in it until it comes out of the other side. I also like to make sure that I put a little grease in the cups too and around on the fork race. I actually use a thinner lithium grease on headsets than I do on the crank or unsealed wheels, only because it spins less than a crank or the wheels. But I don't think it really matters. Before I had two kinds of grease, I used the same kind of grease on everything. So I put the bearing on the fork, slide the fork up in it. I already put the other bearing inside the cup. So then we're just going to tighten down our race nut. Just snug it up until there's no play. You can see the keyway in our fork there. So we'll take our washer with a little key in it. And then our top nut. Alright, then what we want to do is set the tension of our headset. We want no play, but still spin freely. We do that by tightening and loosening that bottom race nut. Once we get it where we want it, then we'll take our two wrenches, the 30mm and our giant crescent wrench, and we'll tighten the two together so that they can't loosen on us or tighten on us. After that, give it a test spin to make sure it works good, and we're ready to install our stem again. Now with this style stem, you have to set your height and the straightness at the same time. So I usually kind of snug it up a little bit so it'll hold itself and I can just micro adjust it. And then keep an eye on it the whole time you're tightening it. After that, all we have to do is reconnect the brakes, and that about wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and I'll keep these videos coming. I'm going to do a couple more videos on old school bikes, like non-sealed axle replacement and one-piece cranks. If you don't want to miss them, you can turn on those alerts and you'll be notified as soon as they drop. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, you can leave a comment below. You can send me a message. Thanks for watching.